Okay. Going to get started officially in just a few moments. We are coming up on the top of the hour. Do want to make sure everyone is in, ready to rock, and is good. So take a quick drink here. Okay, perfect. Right. With that being said, can you hear me? Can you see me? Are we all good to go? The camera is tracking apparently. Let me just fuck with the camera and see if it can keep up with me. Okay, there we go. All right, good and groovy. All right, so we are going to do a few interesting little bloody things today. So just get started here. Just want to make sure. Looks like we do have everyone in. All right. Right, we are going to officially start. So first of all, welcome to a brand new masterclass, something I've never taught publicly. I've only ever taught this to private clients, institutional clients, because again, most of what we do is trading. Okay, most of what we do is the trifecta, if you will. But I have a lot of clients who struggle with trading. They have the resources to trade. They have the inclination and the smarts to trade. They just don't tend to have the time. They don't have the, they're fucking busy. The vast majority of my private clients and institutional clients are just busy. They want a strategy that works, that allows them to adapt. And this is the first time I've taught it publicly. So we're going to do a few things. We're going to split this up over 6 weeks. And I'm going to give you a quick itinerary. So this is what we're going to cover. Let me share the screen. Do that and share the right bloody screen would help. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to give you a copy of this too. But this is the 6-week course layout, shall we say. Let me just make sure to search that to everyone. So you can all have a look at this. But week 1, we're going to be basically laying the foundation. Where are you right now? Your financial position, what you can trade, what you can invest, how you want to split up what you have, where you want to be, and everything else. Then we're going to talk about portfolios, which is, and I'm going to give you a pretty standard, I would say moderately aggressive basis, because this is the Rebel Crypto program. We can be a little more aggressive, but you can also decide where you are based on what you want, what you're looking to achieve, and then create a portfolio that reflects and respects where you are. Because everyone's different. I can be hyper aggressive. I can take the hits. I have the capacity to do so. I can sit through pain. I have the time. I can sit through rapid growth and capitalize, but I have high risk tolerance. Other people do not. So we're going to work through that in a lot of ways and then decide, okay, where are we based on that? So then we're going to set up the Ripple DCA system, which is actually pretty simple, but I'm also going to show you how you can get access to it, because I don't have an automated way to do this. So we're going to then, I'm going to give you a little template to write, which you can then send in via email and then get you hooked up. And then we'll go through some of the resources I'm going to give you, which include this risk assessment and portfolio planner, which I've put together for you. And also a little bit of your get off your ass and do it self-commitment, shall we say. So that is the week, that's week 1. Week 2, then we're going to go really more into the portfolio construction. So we're going to do a little bit of portfolio today, but then we're going to go into, okay, what assets, drivers, cycle analysis, and a few other little things as well. Week 3, we get into the automation. Once we know what we're going to be trading in more detail, then we'll go through how to set this up, how to auto trade, how to make sure your stuff is funded. I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. And then, yeah, we'll go through that. Week 4 is as you go forward, and what happens is you might see that your portfolio proportions are upset. Maybe your growth drivers are now taking up a larger percentage in your portfolio. Well, we'll talk about rebalancing, which is where you basically take your growth drivers, any profits from those off the table, move them into more stable so that your rising tide lifts all the boats up, and it can actually accelerate your stable side and your more balanced side of what you've got going on. Then we'll get into risk management, basically protecting your assets, covering your ass, and we'll talk about bear market strategy, security, and stuff like that. And then we'll talk about some optimizing and scaling success. Basically, what we'll talk about in week 6 can add an extra 10 to 20% a year to what you're doing, which compounds, super compounds very quickly. So this is basically an overview of what we're doing, but let's get into the specifics. So, all right, and I got my notes up here. All right, so by the end of today, we're going to have a couple of different things going on. You will have a clear understanding of where you are, okay? You'll have a defined personal wealth goal. You will have conducted a personal risk assessment. Actually, you'll be doing that a little bit as homework, okay? But again, I want you to give some thought to your portfolio selection, again, so that when we hit the ground running next week, we'll have a clearer definition of that. And then again, you should have your Rebel DCA system set up, at least in TradingView. You can play around with the settings, you can speculate on what you want to do, where you want to be, and we'll actually do some exercises based on that. So let's start and dive in with understanding where the fuck you are right now, okay? Now, again, you cannot see everyone else's stuff. If you want to share information with me, please make sure on your on the chat, because again, you may want to say, hey, Sean, I've got this. And I do not want to call out anyone, their position and where they are, but you'll see here, there's a little thing here, a little drop down where you can send to everyone or hosts and panelists. So I'm just saying this. So if you do want to share any information or anything privately or numbers as we talk about this, you're aware of your anonymity and your ability just to talk directly to me. I won't mention names or any numbers, or I won't mention those in conjunction, shall we say, so that we can use these as examples, okay? So here's the thing. You've got to decide where you start, okay? So this isn't about building wealth rapidly. This is long-term. We're talking 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The power of compounding is incredible when you put it into perspective. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up a sheet. I'm going to give you this. Now, we talked about this in the 4-hour masterclass. You might already have this. But what I'm going to do is just give you this again, the small account compound calculator. And I'm just going to put that in here. Now, this allows you to decide where you want to start from, where you can start from, and what makes sense, okay? Now, everyone has a different starting point. Mine could be significantly larger than yours. Yours may be significantly larger than mine. We've got a few whales who join our programs and everything else, and they keep very fucking quiet about what they're doing. So, again, feel free to share with me privately, again, to hosts and panelists, where you feel you would be starting from. Initial balance, which again, there's two different approaches. There is a amount you can start with right now that you can say, okay, this is what I'm allocating to my portfolio as a starting point, and then how much I will be adding into my portfolio every month. Now, this can be from an investing standpoint, but this is also something that works very well for trading. And if we have time, I might also share something extra with you. We'll see how it goes and how we go through the entire masterclass, but I've got a pretty cool little strategy which is in combination with dollar cost averaging. But we'll see if we get to that depending on how we go. So you can use this, by the way, to use this, just go File, make a copy. You can do this privately, but then you get your own copy of this that you can edit. Now let's just say that we're starting off with 5,000. Okay. And we want to say, yeah, maybe we're averaging for a year, maybe 100%, or we're doing 5% per month, or something like that. Depends on compounding growth and everything else. And then we say, okay, I want to add in maybe 500 a month. Okay. Now, in the course of a year, if we're adding in just 5%, that's our compounded growth. If we're in a bull market, if this doesn't account for bear markets, this is just a compounded on average compounded annual growth rate. Okay. Maybe it's less, maybe it's 2%. Okay. Doesn't matter. We want to see over time, where do we get to? How does that look? Now, if we just started with what's called lump sum investing, okay? Okay, then Dave, you're in a very good position. Then again, you can look at this and you can say, okay, do I want to take a small allocation from here and put it over here? You can decide where you want to possibly split it up for that longer term view. But with that level of holdings, you can also do a lot with some of the stuff we'll talk about at the end as well. And again, you can balance out between everything you've got going on and say, okay, well, I want to do this, I want to be aggressive here, and everything else. So that's a good position to be in. So I can say, okay, with what I've got, if I want to do X, how am I going to look at the end of potentially the year? Where do I want to be? And what does that look like? So you can have what's called lump sum investing, where we just start off with X and let it grow over time. And then you can have, okay, over here, if I'm adding in, what's the difference between those two scenarios? So for example, starting with 5,000, adding in 2% per month on average growth, bum, 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 at the end of the year, 6,216. However, adding in $500 a month, boom, we're up at 12,000. Okay, then you know what, I'm going to change that to 5. Just because, again, it's simpler to see. 5% approximate growth. Now, here's the thing. A lot of Bitcoin is averaging what's called 35% compounded annual growth rate, CAGR. You'll hear me use this phrase a lot. So if we look at that, the difference when you get to year 5 is the difference between 88,000 and 256,000, because you've got that additional money flowing in. You're not just sitting on your ass with your initial chunk and hoping it grows quickly, because by the time it gets up to like year 7, year 8, you're crossing the $1 million. And then what happens is, after you get up to these bigger numbers, that growth rate accelerates dramatically. That's where you go from, 1.5 million to almost 3 million to almost 5 million. It's when you hit that year 10 mark that you have that really big acceleration point. That's really the important thing. Now, if you think about it, where can you jump to? If you had to put $50,000 in and you started here, and again, not everyone can do this, you know, can you jump ahead 5 years? So instead of starting off with 5 and then waiting 5 years to get to here, well, what if I could leap forward? So what I did was like, okay, I was using this example, and I was actually setting this up for a student of mine. And they were saying, well, actually, I could, if I wanted to, jump ahead and do this. I could liquidate X and do this and that. I'm like, okay, well, you've just saved 5 years off that journey. So instead of being here, well, let's start here. And okay, 50,000, and then off you go. But, so what happens then is you're hitting that markers that much quicker, and now you're down, okay, year 7, you're at the 3.5, and so on and so forth. This is what it's all about. So what I want you to do, one second. So you can decide where you want to be and how you want to get there, where you start. The thing is, it doesn't matter if you're starting with 500, doesn't matter if you can't do anything right now. If you're starting with 500 as an example, and you can do 200 a month. Okay, how quickly can that scale? Where can I go and what can I do? That's the important thing, is even if you're not sure what you can do, even if you're starting with a small account, the whole point and purpose of this is that you just fucking start. Okay, so what I want to do is let's go through this risk assessment worksheet. Okay, so I'm just going to walk through what they mean, the questions, and everything else. But this is going to help you decide on where you are right now. So income stability, rate, yeah, and again, do this privately. And you can print this off and write it down if you want, or just write it down on a fucking piece of paper. Doesn't matter. So rate your income stability. I've got people who are freelancers. Their wage or their monthly salary goes up and down. Sometimes things are a bit tight, so they can only do a little bit to it. You can decide if you want to do a percentage of your income. It's one thing I talked about in the masterclass, which is like 15% is my recommended amount, and automatically take that off the top. But you can decide whether you want to do a fixed amount. Okay, some months, maybe if you've got higher income, then that 500, you can scale it up a little bit. If outside of the Rebel DCA method, you can decide, okay, well, I want to just add a little bit more in there because I like this market, I like the conditions. Rebel DCA, the methodology we talk about. Well, I can up that. Or if you just want to keep it a fixed amount, you want to go static DCA and everything else, you can contribute a fixed amount. I like to have more in my war chest. So if I have a good month, I'm going to take a bigger chunk, I'm going to put it over there, and I can then say, okay, well, now I'm increasing X, I can do this. This is what I can adapt to, and then I can build up, I'm using crypto as an example here. I can take a bigger chunk and I can put it in my war chest, which is stable coins, ready to deploy, and then I can change some of the parameters on the Rebel DCA process so that my average comes up and I can meet those requirements. So maybe your income is very steady, fixed income, great. Maybe you have variable, but it gives you an idea of where you should be. What's your time horizon? What do I mean by this? How long until you anticipate needing to access those funds? Within 2 years? It's not giving you a lot of time to grow. 2 to 5 years? Are you planning on retiring in 10 years? Okay, can you hold on and let it grow? Can you let it do its work before you're skimming off the top? The thing is, and this is very much an investor mindset. I prefer to set it and forget it. Forget that it even exists. Even if I'm managing it, even of course I know how much is in there and everything else, but I want to pretend I can't touch it for 10 to 15 years. And if I decide that, and I'm disciplined enough to do that, it's just going to grow. Because if I take out $1,000 today, I have to have it in my mindset. That's $1 million in the future that I'm taking today because I need 1,000, but I'm robbing myself of that future. Now, this is a weird thing. It's a delayed gratification. But when you start putting it in terms of, I'm taking 1,000 out now, but that could be 10,000, that could be 100,000, it could be $1 million in the future that I'm shooting myself in the foot for. How much do you really want to do that? You got to think about the delayed gratification. And it's like, well, I could put it back in. If you are needing revenue faster, be a fucking trader. Okay. If you've got 5, 10 years, 10 years plus, then that's definitely going to be more beneficial to you in terms of being a trader. Can I throw a link in the chat? I'll throw a link in the chat to this one. Yes. You can make a copy of this too. Okay. I forgot to do that. So, emergency reserves. How many months of expenses do you have in liquid funds? One thing I always say is have, and this is a standard thing, is if you lost your job tomorrow, your source of income, do you have at least 6 months? That's ideal. Okay. That's just shit hits the fan territory. So it's always good to have a little bit in reserve. This is dependency obligations. Now, this is another thing. You know, what financial responsibilities do you have for others? Do you have a spouse? Do you have kids? Do you have potential, parents you have to take care of? You know, there's also the what if scenarios. These are things that, from the investment standpoint, have to consider. Now, for me, again, I have a couple of stepkids. I have ex-wife that I, contribute and pay for everything. I have a new upcoming spouse. I have family responsibilities. I have lots of responsibilities. I have staff. I have teams. My team is like a family to me. I try and take care of them too. I try and make sure that I have a lot of different responsibilities. And the thing is, the more successful you become, the more responsibilities you have. It's just the way it is. So I have to think about that. I also have to think about if I have a significant investment portfolio, which I do, if I mentioned this in the masterclass, but again, it's something I have to consider, is if I hit a wall at 200 miles an hour on my race bike, what happens to all my dependents? So I have to think about this stuff to plan for it. I have to think about all this. And it sounds morbid, and please don't take it that way. It's good contingency planning, it's security. So what debt levels? Credit card do you debt? You have, does more than 50% of your income go to debt? You know, mortgages, credit card payments, car payments, things like that. Sit down and actually figure that out, because you'll be surprised. It's like, shit, I've got to clear that out. Okay, I've got this. Okay, so it forces you to look at your own personal finances. So first of all, does that make sense? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Is one of the best investments you can make is pay off your debt. If you have credit card and you can pay off that credit card, that's an instant 20% return on capital, because you don't have to pay that interest in the future. Okay, so it's surprising where the little things come in and what you can do. So it's like, okay, I'll focus here, but that means I contribute a little less to my investments now to clear that off, and then I can contribute more. one thing I do as a monthly exercise, I go and I do this in my business, I do this in my personal life. I go through. Funnily enough, I use a thing called Rocket Money. Fucking great little system. I connect it to all my bank accounts. I connect it to all my cards. I can see payments. I can see subscriptions. I can see everything, and I can then go through. It's like, well, I don't use that. Kill that. Kill that. Kill that. Eliminate that. Cancel that. And boom! And I suddenly found an extra $500,000 a month. I do this on a regular basis. I do this every 3 months. I go on a killing spree. Okay, that sounds bad. I go on a culling spree of my finances. Let me be very fucking clear before I'm misquoted on that. So I go through that and I'm like, oh, well, I don't even use that software subscription or that AI tool that I subscribe for on a free trial. Oh, shit, now it's costing me $300 a month. Kill that. Guess what? That automatically can be then allocated as a part of my investment in the future. That $300 now a month now becomes an extra $30,000 in a few years, and so on and so forth. So you'll be quite surprised where you can just trim things a little bit and find good amount of money. All right. So with that being said, psychological risk tolerance. That's very important because investing and the way that we do it eliminates a lot of the emotional investment. Trading does require fortitude, mental toughness. Trading requires a ability to take a gut punch every now and then and come out the other side swinging. Investing, when you do it the way we are teaching you, doesn't require that. But you still have to consider and be able to not get caught in the investment trap. Give you an example. Have you ever responded? How have you responded to past investment losses? Now, that could be, I'll give an example. You bought a program or a course and it didn't turn out. I think a lot of us have been in that situation, or if you've tried to buy crypto or something like that, you sold immediately to avoid further losses. In other words, you panic sold. Okay? You felt anxious but held positions, or you saw it as an opportunity to buy more. Let me ask you, again, just a little game, if you will. Let's ask that question. How would you score yourself for that? When you've invested or bought, say, crypto or a stock or anything else like that, when it went down, did you sell immediately to close the position? You felt anxious or held the position, or you saw it as an opportunity? Put your score in. Put your score in. Let's make this a little interactive. I won't call out any numbers, okay? I just want to see where people are in general. One of the things that we're going to be teaching you a lot is the investment mindset versus the retail mindset. So in the chat box, please go ahead, answer that where you would feel you are. There's no right or wrong answer, okay? For me, when I first started, I was like a 2, okay? I sold immediately to avoid further losses. It took me a while to get to 9 and 10, okay? Because you have to grow. I won't read that one out, Dave. That's perfect answer. We got a good mix of 5s, a couple of 1s, 6 and 7s. Good. Then you're in the right place. And there's a few 3s. That's okay. Not a problem. Retail traders and retail money often panic sells first. But we're going to train you and teach you to be in the latter category, where it's an opportunity to buy more. It is where basically the panic sellers and the retail money pays us. We're thankful for it. Now, sleep factor. Now, this one's a weird one for me because I'm an insomniac. I have this every now and then, and it's a real pain in my ass. Actually had it last week. After doing the masterclass until 2 o'clock in the morning, I spent the whole week with insomnia because I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning. My brain wouldn't shut down, and then it knocked me out knocked me off track for the entire week. But how would a temporary 30% decline in your portfolio affect your sleep? Now, me, thankfully, doesn't bother me at all. I can sleep like a baby through that, unless I have insomnia, in which case it doesn't matter. But if you would cause you significant sleep disturbance, that's because the emotional stress. Okay. Don't have to answer that now. Like I said, just keep this in mind. If your portfolio took a hit, this is really about evaluating your relationship with money. And you're going to find a lot of the investing masterclass and what we're doing here until, as we lay the foundation for your success here, it's really about looking to that emotional mindset and mental toughness. Right, so I'll come back over. Where the fuck are we? Okay, here. So think about that. Decision making under stress. Can you make a logical, emotionless decision? Okay. Can you make quick decisions to escape uncomfortable, or are you tending to freeze or remain analytical and follow the plan? Again, the goal is to get you to 8. The goal is to get there. However, I can also make very quick decisions, but they're logical, rational, part of a plan. That will happen over time. But the whole point is you're evaluating where you are right now. Okay? Where you are right now. So, investment monitoring behavior. Are you going to check it multiple times a day, a few times a week, or monthly or less frequently? Okay? The goal is once a month, maybe every couple of weeks. I'm going to show you some logic about doing it every 2 weeks, but I mentioned it briefly in the main master or the 4-hour masterclass, but I like to do it every 2 weeks. And there's a specific reason for that, because you actually get more investments. But we'll talk about that later. Opportunity cost perception. When investments you've considered didn't make or perform well, do you typically feel regret and fear of missing out? Note it, but don't let it affect your decision making, and view it as a learning opportunity. Again, very important. Then you can do a little bit of add it up, your combined score out of 100, and then this gives you a kind of a score. Where you are able to then adapt to. You have an aggressive risk profile, then well suited for higher crypto allocations, 60 to 79, moderate risk, average, and then conservative risk means you tend to be you kind of want to lean more towards the stable assets, okay? Because again, it's going to match your profile. And then below 40, you can adapt to more traditional like SPX, gold and stuff like that. We'll get to that later. Then again, this will give you some different adjustment factors you can do based on your profile. And then think about this, your risk profile, your base monthly contributions, what you can realistically do. Bear market increase by a percentage. You could say 30, 50%, depending on what you're able to do. And then what's your emergency stop conditions? In the emergency of X, health or this or these different considerations, and then rebalancing triggers. We don't really need to get into that right now. But again, this will help you determine where you are, where you go. So does that make sense so far? Because this is something I do with all of my private clients, because the thing is, I can judge where they are, but just by talking to them. But when you do it yourself, you're like, don't bullshit yourself, okay? Think about answer this as honestly as possible, because it's really going to help you in the long run. determine the best thing for you. But yeah, give me a yes that you understand this so far. Just understanding where you are. Because here's the thing, to know where you're going, you need to know where the fuck you are, and then how to get there. Okay? Very important. All right. Now, with that being said, now that we've understood where we are, what are your wealth goals? Where do you want to be? For me, very simple. I want to get to, okay. I'm doing an experiment, and I've already got capital management company, significant assets under management of my own. I'm set for life. Okay, that's cool. But what I'm doing right now isn't as an experiment, and it's more for my own amusement. But I've just moved. Okay, so what I'm doing is $200,000 into an account in Singapore and 5K a month. Okay. Now, why am I doing that? Why not? Now, I'm very fortunate where I am and everything else, and that's fine. But my goal is to scale that to 20 million in 8 to 10 years. Again, you see down here, funnily enough, 20 million to 30 million, about year 8. Okay. My goal is to do that by the time I am 60. I'm 50 this year. And, my goal is 20 million. Okay. So regardless, boom, can do a lot. Now, can I be aggressive? Can I be hyper aggressive? Yeah, I can go be more aggressive. But here's the thing. I take that to 20 million, and then even with a meager 10% per year, even if it's just stable fucking if 8 years, I stop monthly contributions. My annual return on that will set me up for the rest of my life, full retirement, blah, 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 blah. But I'm also setting it up for other people. One of my plans, my personal goal on this one, is to set it up as legacy wealth for everyone else, not me. Okay, I'm all set. I'm setting this up as legacy wealth for everyone else, my dependents. So I can do that. I could maybe even take it even further. I could say, okay, well, 10K. Maybe my annualized return based on whatever I'm doing is 7% or what have you. It doesn't matter. The thing is, very quickly, that can become an accelerated goal. And then I can decide, okay, well, if I can do that, and if I can sustain that, maybe I've got lean months, maybe I don't, or what have you. But my goal is to take that off the top of my businesses, because guess what? My business is paying for it, not me. It's not coming out of my pocket. It's coming out of my businesses. And my businesses, blah, 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 they contribute over here, which they do anyway, have done for years. I'm just like, okay, well, move that there, move that there. Don't think about that. Take that allocation, take that, boom, 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 put that over there. Done. Let it do. Let it do exactly what I'm showing you here. And then over time, I can take it, blah, 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 blah. By the time 10 years comes around, if this holds, 66 to $100 million. All right, cool. Then 10%. If I stop contributing, I'm retired now, actually. I mean, I say, like retiring 10 years, I'm already fucking retired. I'm just stuck at retirement. But, but let's just say when I get to retirement age and what have you, then guess what? I could take a big chunk out. I could do something stupid with it. I can enjoy myself. I can do whatever. And I can just let it pay me. And like I said, legacy wealth. I have very clear financial goals. I can do whatever I want. So you can then. Mitzi says, would you like to adopt a cute 59-year-old daughter? That's cute. You're not the first person who's asked me that when I've talked about plans. I've got a lot of my fiance's friends say, do you want to start a harem? No. My brain couldn't take that. But anyway, the whole point of this is understanding where you are, your financial goals, where do you want to be? And then you can decide, okay, with my risk tolerance, with my funds, if I can plug that in, where is it realistic I get there? You know, and that at the end of the day is really what this is all about. So there's several types of wealth. Okay, you can decide, okay, what's my time frame? 1 to 3 years, 3 to 7 years, 7 years upwards. Da, 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 da. But there's also different types of wealth. There's income replacement. There's major purchases, maybe paying off homes, education. There's financial independence. There's, like I mentioned, legacy generational wealth. There's also time wealth. I was very lucky in what I do in my trading and my investing is when I shut down a lot of my businesses, I shut down 10 businesses. I had my fingers a lot of pies, software, physical businesses, and everything else. And during COVID hit, major, major roadblocks. I had to liquidate a lot of stuff, took a lot of hits, a lot of money lost, specifically in real estate sector. And that was where I decided, okay, shut all that shit down. A lot of people, they would have just fucking lost their minds. But I'm like, okay, I had to be ruthless and everything else. I'm like, okay, shut that down, liquidate that, sell that, take that hit. Fuck, that's painful. Okay, shut that down. Because I wanted more time. The other thing was leading into that, I had this false impression that I had to be super, super busy because I was an entrepreneur and I had to load up and load up and load up. And all I did was put pressure on myself. Massive stress. And really didn't help my health. It screwed up relationships, caused a lot of problems. So getting rid of all of that, COVID actually, if I look back at it now, COVID was a blessing in that regard because it forced me to reevaluate a lot of things and shut shit down. You have to decide what kind of wealth you want to create for yourself. Is it long-term, replacement? Is it major financial purchases? Financial independence, legacy, maybe you want to contribute to different charities. You got to decide what you want to do. So really think about that. Give it some serious thought. All right. What is a realistic monthly return when using this? And we're going to go through that in a few moments. So Keith, when we get to the Rebel DCA actual installation, which I'm going to have to jump to in a moment here because I want to keep this session to an hour. But you can then project that out based on previous assets history and everything else. So let's actually jump over to that. Because again, there's a lot of different things we can cover. I can talk about portfolio. So let's just talk about what aspects and what can make up a portfolio. Now, good selection right now, or the one I'm working on, is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. I would say, decent possible portfolio with growth drivers. So Bitcoin and Ethereum make up the solid part of it. Growth drivers would include Solana. And now that the current administration has said that for the strategic crypto reserve, they're going to add in ADA and XRP. We can look at that as well. So, all right, let's jump over to actually install. Now that we've understood the risk assessment and the portfolio planning, again, go through this one in your own time. If we have time at the end, I'll go through this. But there's a little worksheet here. Go through this one. Make sure you've got this one as well. This is your homework, so to speak. So grab that as well. Now, to get access to the Rebel the Rebel DCA suite, you're going to need to send an email to support@tradekenyan.com. I'm just going to write this out. I'm just typing this out. Okay, so just send that email to support@tradekenyan.com. It says basically include your name, your email that you have with Rebel Crypto, so we know who you are, and your TradingView username. Okay, because obviously we've got to check, verify who the fuck you are, and then we can do this. It's a manual process, but then you'll get access to this. Now, when it is set up, this is how you can determine where you want to be. So say, for example, now let me do a Photoshop. Oh, no. Let me just fire up Photoshop. Pick up. Oh, don't crash, you bastard. You fucking crash. That's it. New file. Okay. File. New. Okay. Okay, so say you had a portfolio with BTC, ETH, Solana, ADA, and XRP. Okay, let's just say that we went with the allocation given to the strategic reserve. Now, my focus is the first three: Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Solana. Okay, and I've got a pretty aggressive 45, 45. Actually, no, that's incorrect. 45, 35, which gives me a total of, if my math is right, 40, 30s, yeah, so that's 80, and then 20% Solana. I was like, okay, making sure my math is correct there. Now, if I then added these two in, I would change that to 10, 5, and 5, okay? But my current portfolio is that. Now, if I'm starting with, say, 200,000, yada, 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 got an idea. Okay, well, I can come over here and install this suite. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to install it on a blank chart. Okay, so here we go. Now you will find it under invite only. For me, well, I created the bloody thing. So Rebel DCA suite. So for me, it's in my main library. Now, it will say this at the beginning. Ignore it. Okay. Right. I just go to the beginning, the end, beginning, the end. Because I have to change part of this. So it will ask you to do a few, like beginning of the end, beginning of the end. But we're going to change that. So I'm going to come over to settings. Now, I'm going to say, well, do a little math, first of all. Actually, you know what? We'll come back to that. Start date, I'm going to change that to 2000. 0101, and then change that to 2099, 12. Now I'm going to come down here and do the same. In fact, I can copy and paste it. Okay. Now, I'm going to set this, first of all, on standard DCA, just to show the difference. Okay. Now, this says, how much do you want to deposit? Well, let's assume we're going with that $200,000 example. So I'm going to pick a calculator and 200,000, no, 200 million times 45%. So that's 90,000 allocation. Okay. Now, let's also look at how much is that per month. Well, if I'm doing $5,000 a month, obviously you deduct those numbers for yourself. Then 0.45 is 2250. Now, you look over here, I'm going to work with a couple of the parameters. I'm going to also turn on the statistics display. I'm going to put on the advanced. You can turn this table on or off. I like to work with it on. And I want to see, okay, with that, over time, which is from, say, 2017, I'm just going to work with Bitcoin for now, 2017 to now, what is my total return? 933,000. Okay. That's if I stuck with the standard. Okay. Now, with the standard DCA, all of this stuff is pretty much irrelevant. All the trend strength periods and all the other stuff and volatility, but none of it's used. It's just fixed per month. Let's go to Rebel DCA. Over 1,000%, 2.92 million, and significantly less invested. So this allows you to think about, okay, with history, again, past performance is not indicative of future results, okay? Disclaimer. But looking at the growth that has happened, what is and has been, where the fuck are we, and what can we project? So to answer Keith's question is, I can then use this to determine where I am, what I'm going to do, where my allocated funds can be, and thus, what am I looking at? So if I say, okay, if I invested this in 2017, which is, again, less than 10 years ago, and if I use that to kind of extrapolate out from where we are, what will I look like in that time if that CAGR, the compounded annualized growth rate, persists, which generally we do expect it to slow down, but right now, even if in 10 years, it's still averaging about 35% annualized growth rate compounded, still fucking significant. It's still significantly more than the S&P 500, which is why I'm all in on crypto. But now if I take this over and say, okay, well, if I enable risk management and I can say, okay, if I want to be a little more conservative, what does that look like? I can turn it off and I can compare. Okay, risk management for me with this asset actually increases by an extra 50% return. Okay, using Kelly criteria, which is an adjustment. If you look at the, I move this over here and I zoom in, I can see, okay, my average, for example, I said 2,500 or 2,250, but on average, you can see it's going from like 1,575 to 2,100, and it's adapting it because of the market conditions. But if I enable Kelly criteria, how does that affect things? Well, it actually is more profitable. I'm investing less. If you look here, see, 264,000, but 2.9 million, or using Kelly criterion, now I'm at 2.5 million. I've invested less, but my profit is higher. My return on capital is higher. Well, if that's the case, maybe I can increase how much I'm putting in on average, or what I'm doing, or, boom, if I say 0.8, how much is that affecting what I'm doing? Or if I'll do a 1, not changing actually that much. Let's do a 0.2. Not really changing at all in this case. But again, it's a factor you can add into your calculations. You can say, for example, I have several different moving averages. So if it's above this moving average, I'm going to buy less. Remember, we talked about the Eleanor principle. Okay. If I want to be more in line, I can use the Nadir or Watson. Again, that is 2.9 million. My average returns come down, but it's adapting just a little bit. So I'm going to turn off, I'm going to put, say, McGinley. Okay. Even with Kelly criterion off, that's more adaptable. I'm investing a little less, boom, or I could do an EMA. And you can see this line is moving the whole time. It's just deciding, okay, where's that Eleanor line, so to speak. So I'm just going to put SMA back on. Okay. And then there's all sorts of other things, RSI periods, You don't have to worry about that. I've left those as default because they're my optimized settings. And then there's all sorts of other things. Trend strength period, I could say 200. And doesn't really affect things that much. Use volume analysis. Again, you can see that changes it just a little bit, but it's now using volume adaptation. It's using all sorts of stuff. I leave that on. And really you can play with those numbers, but honestly, it's kind of set by default to be optimized. So, okay, fine. Now that I've decided that, I can think, okay, what was the other one in my portfolio? Let's go over to Ethereum. Okay. So these act as my two cores. So we said, come back to the calculator, 35%. So if I take my 200,000 times 0.35, 70,000. And then 70,000, and then I said 5K a month times 0.35, 1750. So 70,000, 1750. Okay, and how does that work out? Okay, well, again, same time period, same settings, about 470%, turning that into 1.22 million over since 2015. But again, on the charts, it's only 2017, so 8 years, and it turned that into 1.2 million. See, from here, your settings and everything else are pretty much the same. Okay, let's talk about Solana. Solana, I said 20%, so let me just get the calculator. Actually, for 20%, I don't need to do that. So again, 200,000 at 40K, and then 40% of 5. Is that 2,000? This time of night, I just want to make sure my brain is not addled. Times 0.2. Yeah, 1,000. Okay, I'll just math. I wanted to say that, but my brain was saying, hold on, better bloody check before you fuck that up. All right. Okay. So even with that, 40, 85 total, 2.15 million, risk score 12.8, which is very, very good. Total return 2,400. All right, not bad. Now I can see and I can think about that. It's like, okay, well, with that portfolio, again, just based on historical, where am I? What's going on? And how would that look? Now, I could also speculate. I could take the same amount. Let's go over to ADA. How would that have looked? Okay. 500% return, not as good, okay, but still respectable. How would that look with XRP? Okay, not as good, but still respectable. Turn it into 633. So again, that allows me then to determine, okay, well, maybe, and for me, my portfolio, I've only got these 3. That's it. I don't need anything else. I'll just let those run. Now, have I got risk there? Yes, I've got risk. If Solana collapses for whatever reason, okay, but that's only then 20%. My stable ones, more than making up for it. And those are projected to be like, shit, I've seen models saying 13 million per coin by 2040, or 1.5 million by 2030. I don't know. We'll see. I have no, I've seen different models. I've seen the CAGR play out in different expectations. But again, that's also institutional money driving retail money. So take it with a grain of salt. But we have seen massive returns over time. We'll see how it goes. So, okay, we're at the hour. There's a lot, like I said, that we need to go over. But I think that's a good stopping point for the start, okay? So, your homework, like I said, first of all, shoot that email over. Allow 24 to 48 hours, at least, okay, please, because it is a manual process. Go through the risk assessment, go through the portfolio planner. Again, you can also then decide whether you want to mix in gold. And just as a quick thing, you can look at gold futures, GC, to get an idea, okay, how that would look over time. SPX or SPY, in fact, again, give you a good idea. Again, these are stables, these use traditional assets. Another one, BOO, which is the Vanguard SP 500. Again, you'll see this actually echoes the SPY perfectly. But these are aspects you can look at, okay? You can also look at GLD, which is the trust for that. Again, you'll see consistent regrowth over time, but you can then determine where you are, where you want to be, and all the rest of that stuff. Okay, those are good when you're looking at hybrid models, aggressive allocations, and everything else. I mean, aggressive would be like 40% Bitcoin, 30% Ethereum, 30% split across, for example, Solana, XRP, ADA, and everything else. There's different things. So with that being said, where do we send our email and what's to include? Okay, I did type that out. It's just a section above you again. Should be above you in the chat. Yeah, I'm going to screen print it because I can't copy and paste it and I don't want to type it out again. So hold on 1 second. Okay. It won't let me do what I want to do. Okay. Yeah, that basically that. Include your name, your username, or the email on your Rebel Crypto account, and then you're good to go. All right. Yeah. Okay. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. Let me just I'm going to share this. I forgot. Yes, it doesn't allow you to copy and paste. It doesn't allow me to do it, so it won't allow you to do it either. All right. So we'll do that. There you go. And you know what? I was a smart guy. I'll do it in a fucking Google Doc as well. Hold on 1 second. And what I'll do is I'll OCR this. So there we go. All right. I'll do that there. And what I'll do is I will OCR this. Whoops, don't want to do that. If I'm a clever bastard, which I sometimes can be. Little tip for you. If you don't want to type shit out from an image, get ChatGPT to do it. There you go. Wasn't sure if that would work. But there you go. Now you can copy that. My rating username is email for RCT. Thanks. Yeah, okay. So I didn't get everything, but it was close enough. All right, perfect. Simple as that. All right. With that being said, good roll. I'll catch up with you all next week. I will post the replay in Discord. By the way, there is a dedicated channel. I did put one in here, didn't I? No, okay, wrong one. Hold on. Rebel DCA. I will put I'll put all the ducks in there. I'll put the replay in there, and then we'll rock and fucking roll. All right. That being said, I'm gonna go get some sleep. It is just after 11 here, 11 p.m. So I need my beauty sleep. Lots of it. All right. Rock and roll. Take care. See you all soon.